Hey guys, thanks for tuning in, checking out the video. We're on the daily C race. It's 25 laps with a pit stop Group B. It's on Kyoto Driving Park, Miyabi, as you can see down there at the bottom. Qualified 10th out of the 20 cars, 4 left right at the start, so we only have 16 to battle. Half the field is North American, half the field is South American, so we'll kind of see how it goes there. It is a longer than average thing, and mostly the people who watch this are guys that I race with that have just started playing, so really what we'll focus on is driving in traffic, because the game is much different in traffic, and since it is a shorter race, you're pretty much around cars the whole race. So, we're starting at the back, but basically everyone's running the same time, so as you can run consistent, maybe a good pit stop strategy, as we'll get to see that later in as well. Could make a lot of differences. Most of the turns are, going to your right, so the left side tires are going to wear out way faster than, the left side tire is going to wear out faster than the right side tires. But as you can see, a big pack, this first turn's a long sweeper, and it's going to be full of traffic. We can already see a guy pushing up the inside, so we want to try to give him space and just know that be in control in case we get bumped in the back. Make sure that any punts that happen behind us that punt someone else in, losing positions here is not nearly a bad thing. You can make up a position and stuff like that as people start to get way out of control. And you can see we get out of control too, but we managed to hold it. Luckily there's no penalty, and the out of control leads us into contact because there's a car there, right? But now everything's been straightened out. How we got away without getting penalized for punting the guy in the back is beyond me, but it's okay. Now we're just in a normal traffic line, cars everywhere, just focusing on hitting good laps while we have good tires, trying to do the best we can on them, really pushing the car early. We're not really going for any fuel saving or anything like that. Off the top, fuel's not going to be a big issue on this map anyways. Our pit stop is going to barely need to add fuel to it anyways. The reason we're going to have to pit more than anything is going to be because of tires. Now that guy probably could have given me it, ends up turning into a little bit of an extra bit of a battle than it should have been, and that one actually does penalize me. I feel like that one isn't nearly as bad as the other one. He had just come unghosted. We were in a goofy area, but a 1 second penalty isn't that big of a deal. You can run it off right as you go in the pit if you time it right, or in all honesty, you could probably just try to get a second lead on whoever's ahead of you, which is my initial plan is to try to run it off before the pit stop, right as I'm going in, but I don't know where the pit catches me at. So since I don't know that, I do a pretty failed effort of running it off at the pit, so I just run with it. If I can get a second lead on whoever's behind me, it won't even matter anyways. The only thing that would matter is if I'm about to pass someone who doesn't have a penalty, and I don't. Now, my SR had dipped down all the way to B, from S to B, but my driver rating's right on the cusp of B, so I'm hoping to go AB after this race. So more than anything, I just want to focus on clean laps, racing in traffic, and just knowing that driving like that's probably not going to lead to that stuff happening. This gets completely AWOL, dropping places, but at the same time, we still got so many laps to go that I'm not too worried about losing any kind of places. You'll see there's plenty of opportunities if you just don't give up due to little bitty errors and little bitty bumps and loss of controls and things like that, that other people are going to make just as many mistakes across 25 laps. If you have one bad lap, you're probably okay. I'm not racing in the A+S range or anything like that. Yeah, sure, maybe if we're racing some of the best racers in the world, some of the YouTubers I watch and stuff like that, it probably wouldn't work. That would maybe be the end of your race, but none of us are at that level. Most people aren't at that level. Just stay calm, keep your plan going, and you'll most likely make up places by the end of the race, because if you're not one of the ragers, some other person will be a rager, and they will. So we can see over here he's running off his penalty, so his penalty was probably pretty high. I doubt he was braking on the straightaway to run off like a 1 second penalty. He'd probably racked up a pretty decent one. But, you know, running off penalties is its own strategy. If it gets so high, I don't know the exact, it used to be 5 seconds, but I've had 6 and 7 second penalties that don't do it anymore. But at a certain point when that number starts flashing, basically it'll add 1 second to your penalty every second until you start running it off. So he may have been at the point where if he didn't start running it off, it would have just kept climbing. So at this point, it's early in the race, we still got a pit stop to go. Got a guy pushing up our inside, so just not even worrying about it. Just wanting to stay as clean as you can, because I can't control what the other people do on the track. You know, if he's going to race super aggressive and take it high, I'll just go on the inside low and be just fine with it. And the people in front of me have penalties, so I'm not real super worried about them, because if they have more than a second penalty, like a 3-second penalty or something, they're going to have to run theirs off, and I could even take those places back. At this point, I'm, you know, pretty content with if I can make an 8th, 7th, 6th, somewhere in there, I'll be pretty happy. Like, you know, gain 3 or 4 spots on a race, nothing wrong with that. But we do always have people in front of us. Mistakes can always make. As we can see, our tires are starting to turn red over there on the left side, which means this turn in certain cars is going to have a lot of trouble. I know we can't see the car from the angle we're running, but I am running the Alfa Romero, which did really well on this track. I haven't ever run it before. A lot of people seem to be running it, at least for this track. I haven't run a GR4 in a little while, even though I love the GR4s. Been mostly sticking to the GR3s and stuff like that. And the other choice today was a GRB, which I never run these. Now, this is a cool thing in sport mode if you've never seen it before. If a car's getting lapped, they turn into a ghost. So you don't have to pay attention to them. You just drive right through them. They're like no longer part of the race. That way, if you're someone in the back of the pack or something, you can't wreck the leaders just out of frustration. And then we see collision, and we take a free spot just by staying consistent in space. You know this kind of stuff's going to happen. People in front of us are all close enough that they're going to be battling, and the longer the race goes, the more battling they're going to do. Hopefully they're driving worse on their tires, so it's slowing them down, making them slicker, more prone to be mistakes. Honestly, I really kind of like these pit stop races. They're a lot of fun. They add another level to racing where, you might be fast early in the race when your tires are clean, but as they start to burn up, your times go way down, which might give, you an advantage or a disadvantage depending on the car you're in. When and where you pit can make a big difference. In all honesty, I've seen some people at the higher level where even fuel saving can be a huge role, short shifting and that kind of stuff to just save whatever fuel you can so you can be quicker through the pit. That freaked me out when I was racing this. I don't know if it shows up on the replay, but a car flashed in front and then just disappeared out of nowhere. No clue what car it is. Never saw a red car like that in the whole race when I was racing, so I have no clue where that car came from. But just for a split second, a car appeared and disappeared. But now at this point, I'm coming up on halfway. Obviously the 13th lap, it's an odd number race, so you can't just pit on 12 or 13 and be exactly halfway, but I'm thinking I kind of want to see how long I can run, but I also know, probably end of lap 13 is kind of my game plan to pit, but, I haven't really made a hard decision on when I'm going to pit, because the later I pit, because I'm going to have plenty of fuel, the later I pit, the better my tires will be at the end of the race. But the longer I'll be on worse tires. So, is it worth having those faster tires for 2 laps at the end to run 2 extra laps on burnt out tires where my times are getting slow? So I'm kind of starting to think, pay attention to the times I'm running on these burnt out ones, even though one of my fastest laps in the whole race is just, 2 laps ago. So I was starting to think, maybe I could push it up to 14 or even 15, go late and then have some really fast tires for the end of the race. But, we'll see how that turns out. As soon as I see a battle going on in front of me, I always start to take it slow, take it calm and easy, wait for them to bump and fight each other, and then just take the opening. Because you don't always know where the opening is going to be. The guy on the top could, get pushed wide and then come slamming back down the track. And then, so you don't know where the opening for the track is going to be. As we take this kind of 3 wide, we're getting really, he's getting really lucky that he's going in and out of ghosting nonstop. There's a little bit of contact there, not enough that any SR penalties happened. It may not even been full, but then he just, for whatever reason, completely slows down right there for no reason. It seemed like maybe his tires are really worn and he couldn't take it, but that's 100% on me to probably be paying better attention to what he's going to do this late in the race, because you never really know. And then we just decide to go ahead. After 13, I'm going to go ahead and jump in the pit. They're staying out. I want to have fresher tires. You can already see from the fuel, if you've never done a pit before, that little diamond, that's how much fuel you need to run to the end of the race. Just out of terrifiedness, I always go just a hair past it. But as you get more comfortable with it, you'll probably land right on it, because in fuel saving 1, which I haven't gone to the fuel map, so obviously I'm still on fuel 1 full power, but we come out in 6th, and now we got these fresh tires, so I'm really wanting to try to put down some times, because we know that we got some people in front of us that need to hit the pits up in the next few laps at some point. Unless they're running like power saving 6 or something, I don't think there's enough fuel to do the whole race. Maybe there was, but if their tires get that worn, they're probably going to be running like almost 50-second laps. So we know we got some people that are going to be pitting ahead of us, so there's at least, I want to say, 2 people I know for sure, possibly even 3, that still have to pit ahead of us. So if we can run some real quick times, we've got a pretty good opportunity to make a good run on this. But we got to put down good times, and our tires feel a little bit different than they did before. So, like this, we can hold a lot easier. I could have been full throttle probably through it. It's a good thing I kind of already knew the braking points on this one. I do keep the cones on just because I don't know all the maps, but at this point you can see basically every cone on the map has been completely knocked out, which is why if you do run cones, to remind you where brakes are, is start using the cones and like what they're near, so that when they get destroyed, because they inevitably will get destroyed on the course, which I don't understand why they don't just make them invisible things that people drive through. Because if you have cones off, do you see the cones in the middle of the road and stuff? I would doubt it. But you need to kind of know where these cones are, where your apexes are. The braking zone's right as this curb starts for me on this. I take it pretty safe every time around. You could probably be more aggressive and get away with it. I'm not 100% sure. But consistency is kind of the name of the game as much as we can. We still got quite a bit of laps to go, plenty of time to make our way up. We're up into 4th place. We got pressure behind us. We got pretty good gap to the guy in 3rd, but if I recall correctly, I believe he hasn't pit yet. I know there was a Brazilian in front of me, I believe, before we went into the pits that hadn't pit, and I don't think I've seen him step in the pit. So that's potentially, a 3rd place, and now it's kind of getting in that mode where you're like, oh wow, I could possibly make a podium here. We got the Canadian right behind us. This Canadian actually is, pretty good driver. We had a great race. I had a lot of fun racing against him as we start to get a lot closer. I can't remember the car he's driving right off the top of my head, but he was actually very quick around the track. He had a little bit more trouble taking this turn than I did, so this would be areas that I could make up ground. Now we can see this is that same car actually. Even though he's not ghosted right now, he should ghost. Like as we get closer, he should turn into a ghost, and then as we get closer, you see he turns into a ghost. No worries. Even if he was on the track, we could keep with our normal line and just drive straight through him. So when you are coming up against that back end of the traffic, you can kind of just ignore them. They'll turn into ghosts. You're fine to go. But our tires are starting to get to that point where everything started, our braking zones and like how we had to take turns was a little bit different. This turn I just never felt real good at. I didn't know. I was trying different angles to take to try different speeds and things on it. It seems like a pretty big sweeper you can take pretty fast, and it may even have multiple lines you can take in a race to kind of keep your pace up. But I never felt comfortable on that turn very much. And this turn's actually quite a bit of fun, just because as you come around the turn, it just leads right into this nice little, I guess it's a chicane, but it's a very easy chicane. It's not like a Monza chicane or any of the other chicanes in the game. And now we're just kind of in that position where we got 5th place bearing down on us, 3rd place, and at this point I've just decided 3rd place is pitted. That 1st, 2nd, and 3rd have all taken their pit stops, and I'm probably not catching up to third place, so I just gotta want to try to hold fourth place as best I can. Try not to make any mistakes. We see more of these backstoppers ahead of us. Again, we know they're going to ghost when we catch up to them, so we don't really even have to pay any attention to them. They've got penalties all over them. But then I noticed there's third place. I have no clue what he did, no clue how he messed up, and then as I start to see his car, I realize, wait, the Brazilian I saw was in a Hurricane, so this is obviously a Brazilian who must have pitted a lap before me, which means he's on some really burnt out tires right now. From this distance, it looks like he's probably also in the Alfa Romeo as well. Kind of hard to tell. So if he's in the exact same car as me, and I know he must have pitted earlier, I know my tires are going to be better. So this is going to give me a good opportunity as we go around. He's already seems like he's running slow laps, having trouble getting his car around the track. And so if that stays up, we should be just absolutely good. Now, it's funny, most Brazilians I run into online seem to drive, or at least attempt to drive, relatively clean, but you never know. You never really know how someone's day's going. You never know how their last race was. It might be like all Brazilians are horrible, they have this terrible rap for being terrible drivers and stuff, but most of the ones I meet tend to be okay. They are definitely on the aggressive side. Like, if you try to pass them high and they can run you into the wall, they will. But it's not all of them, so you can't just assume he's going to be that way. He's finally seems like he's gotten his car under control. Whatever mistake he made earlier, he's kind of gotten cleaned up, and he's back in control of his car. And so now we got a little battle, third, fourth, fifth, all within drafting distance of each other. I'm still holding that penalty, so I know that the person behind me is far enough back that if I keep them that far back, I don't have to worry about running the penalty off. But at the same time, I do have to worry about the fact that if I barely pass, the Canadian in front of me, that I would have to beat him by a second to actually take over fourth, as he takes a pretty bad turn through there. I try to go aggressive on the inside here. He actually respects it and stays high, but it's still going to give him the better run on this turn, so my move didn't work out because I wasn't able to actually get in front of him to, get in the racing line where he has to, kind of give that little ground up. But he does go around the Brazilian. The Brazilian's up into fourth now. We do see second off in the distance there for a second, but, he's still not enough laps. We would need second to make a pretty big mistake for that to even be possible. Now, I'm assuming the Brazilian has a bigger penalty than me, so if I just get by him and keep him behind me, we should have fourth locked up. But now it's, can I get by the Canadian? Is that possible? The Brazilian tried to drive dirty, but one of us, I don't know if he tried to drive dirtier. Since he ghosted, he probably missed his braking point. I don't think I would have ghosted because I didn't miss the turn at all. So he either went for the punt on me and just ghosted, which if they added some sort of feature to ghost people that are going too fast into corners, way to go, PD. But if that's just blind luck, then that's just blind luck. But that's the kind of stuff sometimes. But I saw it coming, so you could see that I was already getting prepared to get hit and just control it through the turn, because it would just made me go faster. We got one lap on fuel, so we went a little bit over, and at this point, outside of third place, just spinning out the Canadian, there's no way. We look at our time, we don't even have to run the penalty off. We're guaranteed a fourth, 10th to fourth on a long race, and then it turns out that the Canadian actually jumps into second because of the penalty. And then we're about a second behind because of our penalty. So if we maybe could have run that penalty off, I recognized way too late that he was trying to run a penalty off. It's possible, but probably not probable that we could have run a 1 second penalty off and still gotten ahead of him by 1.3 seconds. And then we go fourth place. It was a great race. It's a lot of fun. It shows, sport mode is a lot of fun. It's a great place to find well-balanced races. If you're not so worried about your SR, sure, if you go troll the forums or if you go troll the Reddit, you're probably going to hear all the horror stories of how they've lost SR. But if you just worry about racing, just worry about having fun, things are going to go up. It's going to be fun. It's a really fun race thing. Don't take your rank so seriously. It'll go up and down, I promise. And what's weird is it says I moved up to A, and then I'm C, but then at the top of the screen you can see that I'm BA, because I did finally get to B, and I'm almost back to S racing. I hope you guys had fun watching it. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like, subscribe, all that stuff YouTubers say if you'd like. Peace, guys.